So anybody have any questions or thoughts about object-oriented programming in JavaScript? Anything on that? Thoughts, questions, concerns, differences from Java, if you know Java at all? Nothing? Okay, that's all right. Regular expressions, anybody have any thoughts on that? Nobody has any thoughts? All right. Cool. So, let's see, where should we go next with this? So, I'm going to kind of go over the code that I am going to give you. Okay, so there is a good amount of code for this that I am going to just give to you, okay? So you're going to be in charge of adding all the fields. Okay, you're going to be in charge of, other than what I gave you already, which is kind of a starting point, you're going to be in charge of setting up the object-oriented framework for the JavaScript. You're going to be in charge of setting up the HTML completely. Okay, so in terms of the JavaScript now, let's look at the working version here. All right. So you'll note here, here's some use of regular expressions, just since I'm scrolling through here. But what I want to get to is the file uploader. So for the, I'm going to actually go all the way to the bottom first. So for the photo, I'm going to have, you're going to use a change listener. So that's just like the click listener that we have for the buttons, the other buttons. But for the photo, we're going to use a change listener. Okay, so that's for this. When we click on photo, if it detects a change, meaning if it detects a different file being selected for upload, then it calls this my handle file select. Okay, and that is right up here. Okay, and I'm going to give you this code, but I just want to run through how this works. Okay, so some of this stuff is not true anymore, so I want to get rid of that. So the we're grabbing the very first file that's uploaded. In this case, we're only allowing one file to be uploaded, but different browsers have different capabilities. So we're going to grab file element 0 from the new contact photo field. So image is going to equal that. Then we're going to use some logic here to double check that it's a JPEG file that we're uploading. So we want to make sure it's a JPEG. So I'm doing that just using some simple file name checking. So I'm taking the image name, so we can use the name property of the image. I'm splitting on the period. The split function splits a string into component parts. So it splits it into an array. And then so now this equals an array, so just like this. And then on the array, we can pop the last item off the array. So that's the file extension. And we're going to convert that to lowercase and see if that's a JPEG. So this is just and we could split this into multiple lines to be a little more clear. You don't get points for being clever like this, but this is just to demonstrate that you can string these things together, especially in JavaScript. But in object-oriented languages, oftentimes you can string these properties together as long as you're keeping track of what type of method or what type of property belongs to the object that you're operating on. So here we have image, and we're using the name property, and the name property returns a string, so we can use split on a string. split returns an array, and we can use pop on an array. And pop returns, in this case, a string, and we're going to convert that to lowercase. And then that's a string, and we're going to compare that to JPEG. Okay, so awful lot of work just to see if it's a JPEG file, but that's what we're doing. So then what the actual work being done here is we're using the file reader property of JavaScript. This is a built-in object class in JavaScript. So we're creating a new reader here. This is just how you do it, so there's no magic here. You use file reader. This is just built in. So we do file unload here, or reader unload, and we grab the this is one of our global variables here, newest contact photo. So I'm assigning reader result to newest contact photo, and result is just a property on reader. And I have a really short variable name here so that our line doesn't get real long here. So I'm grabbing the display image here, or I'm grabbing the display image because I want to display it. So in a nutshell, that is so that I can do, if I grab a photo here, when I upload the photo, that allows it to display right away. Okay, that's what allows that to happen. And I didn't apply any styling or anything to that yet, so that needs to happen. But then we read this in as an image. We read the image as a data URL when we hit add this contact. Okay. So all of that is so that we can get that into our object, our contact. Okay. So that is the file uploader. And I'm going to give you all that code. I just wanted to kind of give you a kind of a run through on that. And the upload JSON works almost identically to that. It's not an image, but it uses that file reader API. Okay, so I'm going to give you those uploads. All right, so you're going to have to implement all these, how you want to handle these. So if you want to have these listeners, you're going to have to implement these, all the event listeners with the functions, the associated functions. I will give you the upload code for the JSON. I will give you the upload code for the image, the handle file select for the image, and you'll have to handle delete. I have a confirm message if I'm going to delete. If you want to do something like that, you'll have to handle that. The download JSON, I'm going to give you that. This is a little bit complicated. So if I want to download the object, I actually go through. So I check to see if it's an array, and I check to make sure there are greater than 0 elements in the array, because otherwise, why bother? And then there's a built-in JSON.stringify method that's built into JavaScript that I can apply to contacts. So then I throw that into data, and then I have this blob, and I can create a URL for the blob, and then I can download that blob. And blob is actually a term, like it's a binary. It's sort of a backronym, but it's like a blob. It's like a object, binary object. And so I'm giving it a file name here too. So you can actually you can set the file name. So I'm giving it the type application JSON. So it is in JSON format, but I'm giving it the actual type. This is called a MIME type. So whenever you're downloading any files using your browser, there's a couple of checks that go on, but typically your browser is determining what type of file things are based on the MIME type. So it negotiates with the web server the MIME type of file things are, and that's what this is. So this is a JSON file. So if you're downloading from your AWS server, if you're downloading a JPEG file, the AWS server is checking your JPEG files on your server, and it's saying these are image/JPEGs, as the type, and it's telling that to your web browser. So that is that. Anyway, I'm going to give you all that code. The display, you're going to have, so I think everything else you're going to be able to do mostly on your own. Okay. One thing that is I just want to touch on, but you should kind of do, is if you haven't had any programming before, you might not know what the modulo operator is. Modulus. Anybody know what that is? This little percent sign. Yeah, what's that? Yeah, so what does that mean? Yeah, so in this case, what I'm doing here is I'm checking if the year is divisible by 4, then basically if it's divisible by 4, then do this stuff. Okay, so if it's for instance, if it's the year 2020, this would pass, and then I would go into here. Okay, if it's the year 2021, there would be a remainder. So then year mod 4 would equal 1. There'd be a remainder of 1. Okay, or if the year was 2019, it'd be the mod would be 3. Okay. So this is actually a really useful tool for if you want to have things happen like in CSS on every other line, or I mean not just in CSS, in anything. If you want to do things every other item in programming, you do a mod 2. So that happens frequently. If you're doing things with a leap year, it's mod 4. But it's actually mod 4, but not mod 100. So I don't know if you know that, but like on the hundreds, so on like 1900 was not a leap year, but I think, but every 400 it is. So the year 2000 was a leap year. It's kind of crazy. So anyway, so those are leap years, and those are programmed into my code there. Okay, and then finally, the local storage is really simple. And I think I'm gonna give you these as individual snippets so you can see the actual code broken out for each of these. So I'll try to do that, so to call each of these things out. So the local storage is super easy. So we have the I'm wrapping this in a try catch, and so what try catch is all about. I think there's a W3 schools thing on this. Okay. Okay. So so what we want to do is we want to be able to control how we handle errors when we program things. Okay. So we have this idea of try and catch. Okay. So the try statement allows you to define a block of code to be tested for errors. Okay. So we're going to try this thing. If there's any errors, then we handle the error here. Okay. So this is kind of a common thing in modern programming languages, so that you can take control of a lot of the error handling process, instead of just like giving the end user a cryptic error for, or some nonsense like that. Okay, so that's kind of that's what we're kind of doing here. Okay, so the local storage can it can produce any number of errors, right? Like disk full, or local storage not available for some reason, permission error. I don't know. There's probably any number of things that could go wrong whenever you're dealing with an external entity to the actual web browser. So we're going to try this thing, and if it doesn't work, almost always it's going to work, but if it doesn't work, then we're going to catch it, and we're going to pass the error into here. and we're not really doing much with it because I don't know what errors exactly would occur, and we could look that up and research it. So we're just going to basically pass that error to the console and just kind of print that error out. But you could do something more sophisticated, and if this was a production website that you were doing something with, you probably should. Okay, so you would do something more sophisticated, like if it was an out of memory error, you'd maybe do something to handle that. You'd say you don't have enough storage, so delete some items or whatever. Okay. So anyway, the local storage is super easy. It's one of the coolest, easiest things you can do, and it's just done using local storage dot set item. You give it the name that you want to set, and you just give it the string of things that you want to send it. That's it. Super easy. So in this case, we're just going to use JSON.stringify, and then we give it our array, and that's it. So to save stuff to local storage, super, super easy. Okay. And reading from local storage is we do basically the inverse, and it's really just as easy. So we're going to local storage get item. We just do the inverse, and then we're going to do a JSON.parse of what's in storage. And we wrap that in a try as well, like if the address book context is not found. Okay. So I think those are all the new things that are kind of in there. I think everything else we went through already. I kind of jumped around a little bit. Anybody have any questions or want to see something again? Yeah.
Parsing, could you just, I'm forgetting what that does again.
What parsing is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great. I bet you're not the only one that doesn't know what that means. Yeah, so parsing is just so when we have so if we had this JavaScript code and we needed to parse it, right? That's like we're breaking down the syntax and figuring out what it is. Okay, so we have to parse the syntax. So we're like, this is a line that defines a function. Okay, so in the case of parsing we're parsing the JSON syntax. So we're pulling this. This is a string basically that's just saved to the local storage. We're going to read that whole string in. We're going to parse the items in it. We're going to put it into an object in memory. We're going to read it in, and we're going to figure out how to assemble it as an object in memory.
We're kind of taking it piece by piece.
Well, it's, you know what? We don't have to know how it's handled. That's the magic part. But it is. It totally is, right? So it's reading it like line by line, byte by byte. But that's the magic of this. Like, it's taking care of it. Like, we don't have to know the implementation in this case, but it totally is, right? It's reading it basically like line by line, item by item, and pulling an item and putting it into the array. So we have an array of contacts that's set up like these, right? That has name, address, phone, email, birthday, photo. Okay, so each of those items that's stored on the hard drive. Okay, so that's all in the local storage, and that's pulled back in. So those items get stored in local storage. So when I looked, let's see, display, no, yeah. So let's add one back in here so we can see that again. Okay. Oh, I think I broke it. I think I tweaked something in here. So, yeah, I added an error somewhere at some point. But, so anyway, when we looked at our JSON, I think I have a downloaded JSON anyway. Let's look at one of those, unless I deleted them all. Yep, right here. So, so if we open up one of these JSON files, you know, it's this thing that looks like this. So we're parsing it. We're saying, okay, bracket means it's an array. Curly brace means it's an object. So, so we have an array of objects, and then we have these key value pairs. So we have the key name. We have this name here. We have an address. We have this address here that's in quotes. We have a phone number and the phone number value, an email field, email value, birth date, the birth date value, and then those things get kind of unwrapped and put into the proper fields in memory, okay, into the variables, okay. And it's kind of by magic. It's actually really like that's why we use JSON, especially in JavaScript, because it's like you don't have to do anything. It's amazing, yeah. Um, but even in other languages, it's almost as easy in most other languages now. So yeah, it's kind of makes it unrewarding, unsatisfactory, unsatisfying. Yeah, because you're not doing any of the work. You're like, how does that work? Well, I don't know. So where did my stuff go here? So any other questions? That was an excellent question. Yeah. Yeah, anything with syntax needs parsing. That's one of those buzzwords they probably should do a better job of defining. Everybody's a pro at address book. Y'all got it? Okay, so I'm gonna after class anyway. I'm gonna make sure to get all the stuff that the extra stuff for. I'm gonna give that like full run through for travel calculator that I promised that I never gave you guys. So anybody who needs like my approach to it, you'll have that handy if you want to finish it off today or tomorrow. And I'll get you all the stuff that I promised you for address book. So hopefully I'll get that this afternoon. Okay, so that is that. Let's stop this.